The lecture hall fell silent as the old Krillian veteran limped to the podium. Talvor's blue skin carried deep scars that crossed his face and arms like maps of old battles. His 3 eyes moved slowly across the rows of young cadets who sat waiting. They came from 20 different species across the galaxy. All of them wanted to learn about war. None of them wanted to hear what he had to say. Talvor placed his worn datapad on the desk and looked at the eager faces before him. These children had never seen real combat. They wore clean uniforms and carried expensive equipment. They thought war was about strategy and honor. They thought technology won battles. They were wrong about everything. "I am Talvor of the 3rd Krillian Fleet," he began. His voice was rough like gravel scraping metal. 50 years ago I fought in the Human Covenant War. I commanded 200 soldiers. 43 survived. Today I will tell you why. A young cadet named Hyunwoo leaned forward in his seat. He was Vexian with red scales and sharp eyes. "Everyone knows humans are weak," he said. "They only joined the galactic community 30 years ago. How could primitives defeat the Covenant?" Talvor's scarred face moved into what might have been a smile. It was not a happy expression. "That is exactly what we thought. That is why we lost." He pressed a button on his datapad. The lights dimmed. A hologram appeared above the desk, showing a planet with 2 moons. "This is Broken Moon Station, a mining colony on the frontier. When the war started, Command told us to take it from the humans. Simple mission. We had better weapons, better armor, better ships. The humans had 200 defenders. We brought 500 elite soldiers." Another cadet, a female named Jiwon with silver skin and no visible mouth, raised her hand. She spoke through a translator device. "What happened?" Talvor's 3 eyes closed for a moment. When they opened, something dark lived in them. "We learned that humans do not fight like anyone else in the galaxy. We learned that they are not weak. We learned that evolution made them into something terrifying." He changed the hologram to show a tactical map. Red dots represented the Covenant forces. Blue dots showed human positions. "We landed at dawn. Standard assault pattern. We had air support and heavy weapons. The humans had mining equipment and old rifles. We should have won in 3 hours." The hologram began to move, showing the battle in real time. The red dots pushed forward confidently. They surrounded the main human base. Then something changed. Blue dots disappeared from the map only to reappear behind the red dots. "They used the mining tunnels," Talvor explained. "They knew every passage, every shaft, every weak point in our formation." Hyunwoo looked confused. "But you had scanners. You had aerial surveillance." "Yes," Talvor agreed. "And the humans had something we did not understand. They called it guerrilla warfare. They called it asymmetric tactics. I called it a nightmare." The hologram showed what happened next. Red dots began disappearing fast, too fast. They hit us from angles we did not expect. They used traps, explosives. They turned their own base into a killing zone. When we pushed into the buildings, they were waiting. Talvor pulled up his sleeve, showing a massive scar that ran from his shoulder to his wrist. A human soldier did this. He was already wounded, shot twice in the chest. Any other species would have been dead or unconscious. He was still fighting. Still dangerous. I barely survived. The cadets shifted uncomfortably in their seats. This was not what they expected to hear. War stories were supposed to be about glory and victory, not fear. "By the time the sun set, we had lost 300 soldiers," Talvor continued. "The humans lost 50. We called for reinforcements. We called for orbital bombardment. We were ready to destroy the entire colony just to make them stop." Jiwon's translator crackled. "Why were they so effective?" Talvor walked to the front of the podium. He moved slowly, his old injuries clear in every step. "That is what I will teach you over the next 5 lectures. Today is just the introduction. Today I show you that everything you think you know about humans is wrong." He pulled up another image. This one showed a human soldier. Male, young, wearing damaged armor. His name tag read Sung Ho. This soldier fought for 14 hours straight. No food, no water. Minimal rest. He carried his wounded commander 6 kilometers through hostile territory. When we finally captured him, he had 3 broken ribs, a fractured skull, and internal bleeding. He was still trying to fight us. A cadet in the back row laughed nervously. "That is impossible. No species can function with those injuries." "Exactly," Talvor said. "That is what we thought. We were wrong. Humans have something in their bodies called adrenaline. When they are hurt or afraid, it makes them faster, stronger, more dangerous. They become harder to kill when they should be dying. He showed more images. Human soldiers in various states of injury, all still fighting, all still moving, all still refusing to give up. Every species in the galaxy knows when to surrender. We understand when a battle is lost. We accept defeat with honor. Humans do not have this programming. They fight until they cannot move. Then they fight some more. Hyunwoo looked pale now. His earlier confidence had disappeared. How did we win the war if they are so dangerous? Talvor's expression softened slightly. We did not win. The war ended because humans chose to stop fighting. They chose peace. That is perhaps the most terrifying thing about them. They are capable of extreme violence, but they choose restraint. They could have destroyed us. They decided not to. The lecture hall remained quiet. The young cadets looked at each other with new understanding. War was not what they thought. Humans were not what they expected. Over the next 4 lectures, I will tell you everything, Talvor said. I will tell you about their endurance, their psychology, their tactics. I will tell you why the galaxy should be grateful that humans prefer peace. Because if they ever choose war again, I do not think anyone can stop them. He dismissed the class, but nobody moved immediately. They sat in their seats thinking about what they had heard, thinking about the scars on their teacher's body, thinking about the humans who walked among them in the academy halls. Talvor watched them leave slowly. He remembered being young like them. He remembered thinking war was glorious. 50 years later, he still had nightmares about a mining colony where he learned that humans were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Talvor began the second lecture with a question. What makes a good soldier? He looked at the cadets who filled the hall. They were more serious today. Yesterday's introduction had changed something in them. Hyunwoo raised his hand. Training, discipline, good equipment. Wrong, Talvor said. Those things make an adequate soldier. A good soldier needs something else, something that cannot be taught in any academy. He paused and his 3 eyes focused on the young Vexian. A good soldier needs the will to survive. Humans have that will stronger than any species I have ever encountered. He activated the hologram again. This time it showed the interior of a mining tunnel. Dark, narrow, dangerous. This is where I learned the truth about humanity. 3 days into the battle for Broken Moon Station, my unit received orders to clear the underground sections. Intelligence said the tunnels were empty. Intelligence was wrong. The hologram moved through the tunnel system. Talvor's narration brought the memory back to life. We sent 50 soldiers underground. I was the commanding officer. We had thermal scanners, motion detectors, and combat drones. The humans had darkness and patience, Jiwon's translator spoke. What happened when you entered? Nothing, Talvor replied. That was the first sign something was wrong. Military doctrine says defenders should contest entry points, create choke points, fight from strong positions. The humans let us walk right in. They let us go deep into the tunnel system. Then they sealed the exits behind us. The hologram showed the tunnel layout changing. Red dots representing Covenant forces pushed deeper. Blue dots appeared behind them, cutting off retreat. We realized the trap too late. I ordered my soldiers to fall back. That is when we met Lieutenant Daejung and his team. A new image appeared, a human male in damaged combat armor. His face was covered in dust and dried blood. His eyes were cold and calculating. This human commander had only 12 soldiers with him. We had 50. We had better weapons and armor. None of that mattered. Talvor walked slowly around the podium. His limp was more pronounced today. The weather affected his old wounds. Daejung did not fight fair. His people were not standing in line shooting at us. They used the tunnels like they were born there. They appeared, fired, and vanished before we could respond. They used our own drones against us. They hacked our communication systems. They turned our advantages into weaknesses. A cadet named Yuna spoke up. She was from the Tholian species, known for their logical thinking. Why did you not use explosives to collapse the tunnels? We tried, Talvor admitted. The humans anticipated that. They had reinforced certain sections. When we tried to bring down the ceiling, it killed 6 of our own soldiers. The humans survived. They were in the sections they knew would hold. The hologram showed the battle developing. Red dots began disappearing from the map. We fought for 8 hours in those tunnels. Every intersection was a potential ambush. Every shadow could hide an enemy. The humans made us afraid of the dark. He showed another image. A human female with short black hair and kind eyes. She wore a medic symbol on her armor. This is Corporal Minji. She was their combat medic. In any other species, medics stay back from fighting. They treat the wounded and avoid combat. Minji killed 4 of my soldiers while simultaneously treating her own wounded. The cadets looked shocked. Hyunwoo spoke again. That violates the galactic rules of war. Medics are protected non-combatants. Talvor's laugh was bitter. Humans follow their own rules of war. The Geneva Conventions, they call it. In their system, medics can fight if directly threatened. And in those tunnels, everything was a direct threat. He pulled up combat footage from a soldier's helmet camera. The video was shaky and dark. Weapons fire lit up the tunnel in brief flashes. In one flash, Minji appeared. She was dragging a wounded human soldier with one hand. In her other hand, she held a rifle. She shot a Covenant soldier, then went back to treating her patient. All in the space of 3 seconds, she moved like a dancer, Talvor said quietly. Every action was smooth and efficient. Fight, heal, move. Fight, heal, move. We could not predict what she would do next. The video continued. More fighting, more chaos. Then something happened that made several cadets gasp. A human soldier took a direct hit from a plasma rifle. The shot burned through his armor and into his chest. He should have died instantly. Instead, he turned and killed his attacker before collapsing. That was Private Sung-ho, Talvor explained. The same soldier I showed you yesterday. That hit should have killed him immediately. Human anatomy said it was impossible to survive, but Sung-ho kept fighting for another 30 seconds before his body understood it was supposed to be dead. Ji-won's translator crackled with urgency. How is that possible? Talvor displayed a medical chart comparing different species. This is what I learned later from human doctors. Their species evolved on a death world. Earth has more predators than any other known inhabited planet. Humans developed unique survival mechanisms. One of them is adrenaline. He highlighted sections of the human body on the chart. When humans are hurt or frightened, their bodies release this chemical. It blocks pain, increases strength, sharpens reflexes, makes them faster and more dangerous exactly when they should be weakest. It is like they are designed for war. The chart showed comparison numbers. Human pain tolerance was off the scale compared to other species. Their ability to function while injured was unprecedented. Their endurance was impossible. In those tunnels we wounded many humans, Talvor continued. We thought wounded enemies would slow down, would need help, would become liabilities. Human wounded became more aggressive. They fought harder. They took more risks. It was the opposite of logical. He showed more footage. A human soldier with a broken arm using it to hold a grenade while throwing it with the other hand. Another human with a leg injury using his rifle as a crutch while still shooting accurately. Minji treating a sucking chest wound on a fellow soldier while that soldier continued to fight. We lost 32 soldiers in those 8 hours, Talvor said. The humans lost 2. Lieutenant Daejung finally called a ceasefire. Not because he had to, because he chose to. He could have killed us all. The tunnels were his territory. We were trapped and exhausted. A new video appeared. It showed Talvor himself younger and less scarred. He was covered in blood, some his own and some from his soldiers. He sat against a tunnel wall, weapon empty, waiting to die. Then Daejung appeared in front of him. The human lieutenant looked at Talvor for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He offered water, food, medical supplies. He spoke in broken Krillian, saying that the fighting was over for now. He spared us, Talvor said. He could have executed every survivor. War doctrine would have supported it. We were enemies in his territory. But he chose mercy. He gave us medical aid. He let us carry our dead back to our lines. The lecture hall was completely silent. Every cadet watched the screen with wide eyes. They saw the human soldiers helping their enemies, treating wounds, sharing supplies, acting like the Covenant soldiers were people instead of targets. That was when I understood, Talvor continued. Humans are dangerous not just because they can fight. They are dangerous because they can choose not to fight. They have the capacity for extreme violence and extreme compassion, often in the same moment. He turned off the hologram. The lights came back up slowly. Next lecture, I will tell you about human endurance, about how they can fight for days without rest, about how they turn their own biology into a weapon. But today, remember this. The most frightening thing about humanity is not their ability to kill. It is their ability to decide who lives and who dies. The cadets left slowly. They talked in quiet voices. They looked at the human instructors in the academy with new eyes. eyes that held respect and a little bit of fear. Talvor remained at the podium. He was thinking about Lieutenant Daejung. They had exchanged messages over the years. Former enemies who understood each other better than most friends. War had taught them both terrible lessons. Peace was teaching them hope. The third lecture began differently. Talvor had placed several objects on the desk in front of the podium. A water container, a food ration pack, a medical kit, a chronometer showing time. The cadets filed in and stared at these simple items with confusion. These are the basic requirements for life, Talvor began. Every species needs water, food, medical care, rest. Without these things, we die. Today I will teach you how humans redefine what it means to survive. He picked up the water container. A Krillian soldier needs 6 liters of water every day to function properly. A Vexian needs 5. A Tholian needs 7. How much does a human need? Hyunwoo thought for a moment. Similar amounts? Maybe 4 or 5 liters? Talvor shook his head. A human can survive on 1 liter per day. They can function in combat conditions on 2 liters. I have seen humans go 3 days with almost no water and still fight effectively. Their bodies are designed to conserve resources in ways we cannot match. He set down the water and picked up the food ration. Nutritional requirements. A Krillian needs 3 full meals per day. We become weak without regular food intake. Humans evolved differently. They are persistence hunters from a world where food was not always available. They can fight on 1 meal every 2 days if necessary. Jiwon's translator buzzed. That seems impossible. The body needs energy for combat. Yes, Talvor agreed. And humans can use their own body fat as fuel. They store energy in ways most species do not. During the war, I saw human soldiers go a full week on minimal rations while maintaining combat effectiveness. By the end, they were thin and exhausted but still dangerous. He activated the hologram. It showed a space battle. Ships exchanging fire in the darkness between stars. This was the Battle of the Void Gate, 4th year of the war. A human destroyer called the Indomitable engaged 3 Covenant cruisers. The destroyer was outgunned and outmatched. Captain Bora commanded that ship. A new image appeared. A human woman with sharp eyes and gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She wore a captain's uniform that looked worn and patched. Bora had served in the human merchant navy before the war. She knew how to keep a ship running with minimal resources. That knowledge saved her crew. The hologram showed the battle in detail. The human destroyer was smaller and less powerful than the Covenant cruisers. It should have been destroyed in the first engagement. Instead, it danced between the larger ships using asteroids for cover, striking from unexpected angles. The battle lasted 11 hours, Talvor explained. The Indomitable took heavy damage. Life support failed in 6 different sections. The medical bay was destroyed. Food storage was vented to space. Half the crew was wounded or dead. Any other ship would have surrendered. He paused, letting the weight of those words settle over the cadets. Captain Bora did not surrender. She ordered her crew to put on vacuum suits and keep fighting. They operated the weapons manually when the computer systems failed. They used emergency oxygen and kept their positions. The hologram showed the interior of the ship. Human crew members in bulky vacuum suits moving through corridors that had no air. Some were clearly injured, blood visible inside their helmets. They moved with purpose and determination. They fought in vacuum for 6 hours, Talvor said. 6 hours without proper life support. Without gravity in many sections. Without medical care for the wounded. They just kept fighting. Yuna raised her hand.
How did the battle end?
Talvor's expression was grim. The Indomitable destroyed 1 cruiser and damaged the other 2 badly enough that they retreated. Captain Bora then navigated her dying ship back to friendly space. It took 3 days. The ship barely held together, but she brought her surviving crew home. He showed casualty figures. Out of 200 crew members, 83 survived. All of them had injuries. Many had permanent damage from exposure to vacuum and radiation. Any other species would have lost the entire crew. Humans brought back nearly half. The hologram changed to show a medical examination room. A human soldier lay on a table while doctors worked. The image was clinical and detailed. This is what human endurance looks like at the biological level, Talvor explained. Their cardiovascular system can function under extreme stress. Their lungs can process minimal oxygen. Their brains can operate through pain that would knock most species unconscious. He showed brain scans comparing different species under stress. The human brain showed unique patterns. Humans have something they call compartmentalization. They can separate pain and fear from decision-making. The body is screaming that it is dying, but the mind stays focused on the mission. A video played. It showed Private Sung Ho from the earlier lectures. This was after he had been wounded in the tunnels. Medical scanners showed his injuries in detail. Broken ribs, fractured skull, internal bleeding, burns across 30% of his body. These injuries should have been fatal, Talvor said. At minimum, they should have rendered him unconscious. Instead, Sung Ho remained alert and aware. He gave his commanding officer a detailed report of enemy positions. He warned about booby traps. He provided tactical information. Then he allowed the medics to treat him. The cadets watched in silence as the medical team worked. Minji appeared in the video, checking Sung Ho's vitals and administering treatment. She spoke to him in Korean, their native language. The translator provided subtitles. She was telling him he was an idiot for not reporting his injuries sooner. He was laughing despite the pain. Humans use humor when they are hurt, Talvor explained. They make jokes about their injuries. They laugh at death. This psychological mechanism helps them cope with trauma that would break other species mentally. He pulled up psychological evaluation reports from human soldiers. The data showed high levels of stress tolerance, unusual emotional regulation, the ability to process traumatic experiences and continue functioning. During the war, we captured human soldiers and tried to break them with interrogation, Talvor admitted. Standard techniques that work on every other species. Sleep deprivation, isolation, stress positions. Nothing worked the way it should. Humans resisted longer, recovered faster. Some of them even escaped captivity despite their injuries. A new video showed a detention facility, 3 human prisoners being held in standard conditions. They had food, water, and medical care. They were not tortured. Yet they were planning an escape. The security footage showed them working together with minimal communication, using improvised tools, taking advantage of small mistakes by their guards. They escaped after 6 days, Talvor said, injured, weakened, in unfamiliar territory. They stole a transport and made it back to human lines. We never understood how they did it. Hyunwoo looked disturbed. Are you saying humans cannot be held prisoner? I am saying humans do not accept captivity easily, Talvor replied. They are psychologically programmed to escape, to keep trying, to never give up. This makes them extremely difficult to contain or control. He showed more examples. Human soldiers escaping from prison camps, surviving behind enemy lines for months, living off the land with minimal equipment. Every story demonstrated the same pattern. Humans endured what should have been impossible. Their homeworld made them this way, Talvor explained. He showed images of Earth, beautiful but deadly. Extreme environments from frozen poles to burning deserts. Predators that evolved alongside humans, making them both prey and hunter. Humans are persistence hunters, he continued. Before technology, they would chase prey animals for days, running until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. This is still in their biology. They can keep going long after other species would stop. They outlast their enemies through sheer stubborn refusal to quit. The hologram showed a recreation of ancient humans hunting, running after an animal under the hot sun, hour after hour. The animal was faster but had to rest. The humans just kept coming, slow but relentless. Eventually, the animal could not run anymore. The humans caught up and made the kill. This is why they are terrifying, Talvor said quietly. You can wound them, slow them down, make them suffer, but they will keep coming. They will outlast you. They will survive when you cannot. He picked up the chronometer from his desk. Rest requirements. A Krillian needs 8 hours of sleep per day. Most species need similar amounts. Humans need less. They can function on 4 hours. In combat situations, they use something called power naps, 20-minute periods of sleep that somehow restore their energy. The cadets looked exhausted just listening to this information. It went against everything they knew about biology and survival. I fought humans for 6 years, Talvor said. I learned that you cannot outlast them. You cannot wear them down. You cannot make them quit through attrition. The only way to defeat humans is to make them choose to stop fighting. Fortunately for the galaxy, they are willing to make that choice. He turned off the hologram and looked at his students. Next lecture, I will tell you about human psychological warfare, how they use understanding and empathy as weapons, how they know their enemies better than we know ourselves. But today, remember this. Human endurance is not just physical. It is mental, emotional, spiritual. They simply refuse to break. The lecture ended. The cadets left slowly, talking among themselves. They looked at the simple objects on Talvor's desk with new understanding. Water. Talvor stood at the podium with a different energy today. The previous lectures had been about human physical capabilities. Today would be darker, more disturbing. He could see the cadets sensed this shift. They entered the hall quietly and took their seats without the usual chatter. "What is the most effective weapon?" Talvor asked. He waited for responses, but none came. The students had learned not to answer too quickly. "Is it a plasma rifle? A nuclear warhead? An orbital bombardment system?" He shook his head slowly. "The most effective weapon is understanding. Knowing your enemy completely, seeing inside their mind. Humans mastered this weapon better than any species in galactic history." The hologram activated, showing a human woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. She wore a military uniform but carried no visible weapons. Her name tag read Hyojin. "This is Commander Hyojin." She was a psychological warfare specialist. She never fired a weapon during the entire war, yet she was responsible for more Covenant defeats than entire battle groups. Talvor's three eyes fixed on the image with something that looked like respect and fear. "Hyojin interrogated me when I was captured. She did not use torture. She did not threaten. She did not hurt me at all. What she did was far more effective and far more disturbing." A video played showing an interrogation room. Clean and well lit. Comfortable chairs. A table with water and food. Nothing like the harsh military detention facilities the Covenant used. Young Talvor sat on one side of the table. Hyojin sat across from him. "She knew everything about me," Talvor narrated as the video played. "My family structure, my home planet's customs, my military record, my personal beliefs. She had studied Krillian psychology and culture so deeply that she understood me better than I understood myself." The video showed Hyojin speaking. The translator provided her words. She was asking about Talvor's family, his childhood, his reasons for joining the military. She spoke with genuine interest and warmth. She listened carefully to his answers. She responded with empathy and understanding. She did not ask about military secrets, Talvor explained. Not at first. She just talked to me like I was a person. She made me feel heard and valued. After days of combat and fear, her kindness was overwhelming. Jiwon's translator crackled. "That sounds like manipulation." "Yes," Talvor agreed. "The most sophisticated manipulation I have ever experienced." Hyojin made me want to talk to her. I knew what she was doing. I knew it was interrogation technique, but knowing did not stop it from working. The video continued. Days passed in fast forward. Each session showed Hyojin slowly building trust, learning more about Talvor, understanding his values and fears, never pushing too hard, never demanding information, just creating a space where talking felt natural. By the 10th day, I was telling her strategic information, Talvor admitted, not because she forced me, because I believed she would use it to end the war faster, to save lives on both sides. She convinced me that helping her was the moral choice. He paused the video and looked at his students. This is human psychological warfare at its foundation. They do not break you. They do not make you hate them. They make you want to cooperate. They make betraying your own side feel like the right thing to do. A new hologram appeared showing another human, male, younger, with intense eyes. His name was Jin Sol, and he wore the insignia of a research specialist. Dr. Jin Sol created the doctrine that Hyojin used. He studied every species in the Covenant. He learned languages, customs, social structures, and psychological vulnerabilities. Then he taught other humans how to exploit that knowledge. The hologram displayed a complex chart. It showed different alien species and their psychological profiles, fear responses, social bonds, moral frameworks, decision-making patterns. Everything was documented in precise detail. Jinsol understood something that most species never consider. Talvor said, "Psychology is not universal. Each species evolved differently. We have different social needs, different moral instincts, different ways of processing stress and making decisions." He highlighted the Krillian section of the chart. "My species values honor and duty above individual survival. We follow hierarchy strictly. We trust authority figures." Jinsol identified these traits and created specific techniques to exploit them. Hyojin used those techniques on me perfectly. Hyunwoo looked angry. "That is cheating. That is not honorable combat." "War is not honorable," Talvor replied sharply. "That is the lesson humans learned long before they reached the stars. They have been fighting themselves for their entire history. Thousands of years of human versus human conflict. They know every possible way to hurt, manipulate, and destroy each other. When they went to war with us, they simply applied that knowledge to new species. A video montage played showing different human psychological operations, propaganda broadcasts tailored to specific species, negotiation tactics that exploited cultural assumptions, military strategies based on deep understanding of how different aliens thought and fought. Humans can hold contradictory ideas in their minds simultaneously, Talvor explained. They can see us as enemies who must be defeated and as people who deserve respect. They can hate what we do while understanding why we do it. This cognitive flexibility makes them unpredictable and extremely dangerous. He showed footage of human soldiers in combat. They fought with brutal efficiency. Then the same soldiers appeared in different footage, providing medical care to captured enemies, sharing food with refugees, helping rebuild destroyed communities. The same individuals displaying extreme violence and extreme compassion. Most species cannot do this, Talvor said. We are either warriors or healers, predators or prey, aggressive or peaceful. Humans can be all of these things at once. They choose their behavior based on context rather than instinct. Yuna spoke up. How do you fight an enemy like that? How do you predict their actions? You cannot, Talvor answered. That is why we lost the war. Every time we thought we understood human patterns, they changed their approach. Every time we developed counter tactics, they adapted. They are the most flexible and creative species in the galaxy. The hologram changed to show battle footage from different perspectives. Covenant forces using standard military doctrine, establishing defensive positions, following predictable tactical patterns. Then human forces appeared doing something completely unexpected, using civilian vehicles as weapons, turning agricultural equipment into artillery, fighting in ways that made no tactical sense until suddenly it did. Humans improvise, Talvor said. They create solutions in real time. They see possibilities that our rigid military thinking cannot comprehend. A human soldier with a broken rifle and some mining explosives is more dangerous than many fully armed conventional troops. He showed a specific incident, a human unit trapped behind enemy lines with no ammunition and limited supplies. Standard doctrine said they should hide and wait for rescue or surrender. Instead, they raided a Covenant supply depot using improvised weapons and psychological tactics. They stole enough equipment to arm themselves and then continued fighting. They turned being trapped into an advantage, Talvor explained. They operated in our rear areas, causing chaos and confusion. We had to divert significant forces to hunt them down, forces that were needed on the front lines. One isolated unit caused strategic problems across an entire sector. The video showed the commander of that unit, Lieutenant Daejung, the same human from the tunnel fighting. He was giving orders to his soldiers, pointing at maps, explaining plans. Even through the language barrier and alien perspective, his confidence was obvious. Daejung understood something crucial, Talvor said. Warfare is not about following rules. It is about achieving objectives. Humans wrote extensive rules of war. The Geneva Conventions, laws about treatment of prisoners and civilians, restrictions on weapons and tactics. Then they learned exactly how to operate within those rules while maximizing lethality. He displayed the human rules of war next to Covenant military doctrine. The human version was more restrictive in many ways. It protected non-combatants. It limited certain weapons. It required humane treatment of prisoners. Yet humans still fought more effectively than the Covenant forces. They use ethics as a force multiplier, Talvor explained. By treating prisoners well, they encouraged surrender. By protecting civilians, they reduced resistance in occupied areas. By following their own rules, they claimed moral authority. Then they used that authority to recruit allies and isolate enemies. G1's translator spoke. So their morality is just another tactic? Talvor considered the question carefully. No. I think they genuinely believe in their ethical framework, but they also understand how to use it strategically. That is the disturbing part. They are not pretending to be moral. They actually are moral, but they can weaponize their own morality to achieve victory. He showed footage of human diplomats working with neutral species, convincing them that the Covenant was the aggressor, building coalitions, creating economic pressure, fighting the war on multiple fronts simultaneously, not all of them military. By the end of the war, we were isolated, Talvor said. Our allies questioned us. Neutral parties refused to trade with us. Human psychological operations had turned the entire galaxy. The lecture hall was full when Talvor arrived for the final session. More cadets than usual had come. Word had spread about his lectures. Young soldiers from every species wanted to hear the conclusion of his story about humanity. They sat in neat rows, silent and attentive. Talvor moved slowly to the podium. His injuries bothered him more today. The scars on his body ached with memory. 50 years had not been enough time to forget what he had learned during the war. "This is my final lecture about humanity," he began. "I have told you about their physical capabilities, their psychological warfare, their endurance and creativity. Today, I will tell you the most important lesson, the one that saved my life and changed the galaxy." He activated the hologram showing the final days of the war, Covenant forces in retreat, human fleets advancing. The numbers showed an inevitable conclusion. We were losing. Our leadership knew it. Our soldiers knew it. We had two choices: surrender or fight to extinction. The hologram displayed diplomatic channels, secret messages between Covenant command and human leadership, negotiations happening while battles still raged. We expected demands for unconditional surrender. We expected occupation and punishment. We expected revenge for the war we started. Talvor paused and his three eyes swept across the young faces watching him. That is not what humans offered. They offered peace with honor. They offered reconstruction assistance. They offered partnership instead of subjugation. We did not understand why. A new image appeared, the peace conference where the war officially ended. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in a neutral station. Human delegates sat across from Covenant leaders. No weapons, no guards, just people talking. "I was there," Talvor said, "recovered from my wounds, given a diplomatic role because I had experience with humans. I sat in that room and watched them negotiate the peace treaty. I kept waiting for the trap, the hidden clause that would give them advantage. It never came. The treaty terms appeared on the hologram: reasonable borders, fair trade agreements, joint security arrangements, reparations that would not cripple the Covenant economy. Everything was balanced and thoughtful. Why did they not crush us?" Hyunwoo asked. They had won. They could have demanded anything. Talvor smiled sadly. "That is what I asked Commander Hyojin." She was part of the human delegation. "I saw her across the conference room and requested a private conversation." She agreed. A video played showing that meeting, Hyojin and Talvor in a small room away from the main conference. They sat across from each other like they had during his interrogation. But this time they were equals, former enemies discussing the future. "I asked her why humans were being merciful," Talvor narrated. "She gave me an answer I still think about today. She said that humans had learned from their own history that crushing a defeated enemy creates future problems, that humiliation breeds resentment, that true peace requires partnership, not domination." The video showed Hyojin speaking. Her translator provided the words. "We won the war," she said, "but we want to win the peace. That requires making you our friends instead of our subjects. It requires giving you a reason to want peace as much as we do." Talvor turned to face his students. That is human strategic thinking. They do not just plan for the current war. They plan for the peace that follows. They plan for the next century. "They think longer term than any species I have encountered," G1's translator buzzed. "But does that not make them vulnerable? If they are always choosing mercy?" "Watch," Talvor said. He changed the hologram to show the years after the war. The galaxy had been devastated. Millions dead. Economies ruined. Infrastructure destroyed. The rebuilding process seemed impossible. Humans led the reconstruction effort, Talvor explained. They provided technology, resources, and expertise. They worked alongside former enemies to rebuild what war had destroyed. They invested in our recovery because they understood that a stable galaxy benefited everyone. The images showed human engineers working with Covenant workers, human doctors treating alien patients, human teachers training the next generation. Everywhere they went, humans built bridges between species. Within 10 years, the Covenant economy had recovered, Talvor said. Within 20 years, we were trading partners with humanity. Within 30 years, we were allies. The transformation was remarkable, and it was all because humans chose to help rather than hurt. Una raised her hand. But what if the Covenant had attacked again during Reconstruction? What if humans had shown weakness? Talvor's expression became serious. That is the brilliant part of their strategy. They helped us rebuild, but they also maintained military readiness. They were kind but not naive. They offered friendship with one hand while keeping the other hand ready to fight if necessary. He showed military readiness reports from the post-war period. Human fleets remained modern and capable. Their technology continued advancing. Their soldiers maintained training. They were peaceful but prepared. Humans understand deterrence, Talvor said. They do not want to fight, but they make sure everyone knows they can fight if needed. That combination of capability and restraint commands respect. The hologram changed to show current times. The Galactic Academy where they sat. Human instructors teaching alongside alien professors. Human students learning with alien cadets. Full integration and cooperation. This academy exists because of human diplomatic efforts, Talvor explained. They proposed joint military training, shared doctrine, combined operations. They wanted to make sure future conflicts could be resolved without war. He walked to the front of the podium and looked directly at his students. Everything I have taught you over these 5 lectures leads to one conclusion. Humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy, not because they are violent, but because they can be violent when necessary and choose peace when possible. That combination makes them unpredictable and powerful. The lecture hall doors opened. A human male entered and walked down the aisle toward the podium. He wore an instructor's uniform with teaching credentials. The cadets recognized him. Instructor Dong Hyun had been teaching at the academy for 3 years. He was well liked and respected. Nobody had connected him to Talvor's lectures about humanity. Dong Hyun joined Talvor at the front of the room. The 2 former enemies stood side by side. The Krillian veteran and the human instructor. Old warrior and young teacher. This is Instructor Dong Hyun, Talvor said. He served in the human military during the war. We have known each other for 30 years. We are friends, the cadets looked shocked. They had been learning from a human this entire time. The dangerous species Talvor described had been teaching them mathematics and strategy. They had not been afraid because Dong Hyun was kind and patient. Dong Hyun spoke in perfect galactic common. Commander Talvor has told you the truth about humanity. We are capable of extreme violence. We evolved on a dangerous world. We learned to survive by outlasting our enemies. All of that is true. He paused and looked at the young faces staring at him, but he also told you something else. We choose restraint. We prefer peace. We understand the cost of war better than most species, because we have been fighting ourselves for thousands of years. We know how much violence hurts everyone, winners and losers both. Talvor nodded. I have shown you combat footage and battle tactics. I have explained human biology and psychology. But the most important lesson is this: humans are not monsters. They are people who understand both war and peace. They have the wisdom to choose correctly between them. Dong Hyun smiled. During the war, I fought in the same tunnels where Commander Talvor's unit was trapped. I was with Lieutenant Daejung's team. I helped set the ambushes. I saw the Covenant soldiers surrender and we made the decision to spare them. That decision changed everything. He looked at Talvor with obvious respect. If we had killed them all, the war might have continued longer. More death, more suffering. By showing mercy, we created the possibility of peace. Talvor became an advocate for ending the war. He helped negotiate the treaty. He is one of the reasons we are all here today. The hologram changed one final time. It showed a compilation of images from across the galaxy. Humans and aliens working together, trading, learning, building, creating art and technology. Living in peace, this is what humans chose, Talvor said. After winning the war, they chose to win the peace. They invested 50 years in building relationships, in proving they could be trusted, in showing that their strength was matched by their wisdom. Hyunwoo stood up. What if another war happens? What if humans decide to conquer instead of cooperate? Dong Hyun answered honestly. Then the galaxy should be afraid. Because everything Talvor taught you about our capabilities is true. We are dangerous when we choose to be. That is why it is so important that we choose not to be. Talvor added, this academy exists to prevent that future. By training together, we learn to understand each other. By working together, we build trust. By choosing cooperation, we make war less likely. He looked around the lecture hall at all the young cadets. Different species, different worlds, all learning to work together. You are the generation that will maintain the peace. You will serve in mixed units. You will fight beside species that were enemies to your grandparents. This is what humanity made possible.